Thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon, friends. Hope you had a nice meal. And this session is going to talk about what's after the entire cyber security infrastructure fails. If in case you put in the best cyber security systems in place, and beyond that, nobody can guarantee that any system can withstand a new type of risk that they may face. If all those mitigations fail, do we have anything to save our company or our business? So I am going to take you through some aspects as to what happens if the cyber security system or the information security systems or the IT system that you may have cannot withstand new kind of threats. As you can see in the first slide, somebody is very sophisticated, is trying to attack you, and then many corporates, whether it is India or outside, are believing in traditional protection systems. What a hacker would do is he keep on trying and looking at your weak spot, and then he is able to gain access, and then he attacks. So we are getting increasing instances of corporates getting hit, whether it is a banking sector or it is a utility or it is a manufacturing company. We see there are more and more instances reported, and in the last 2 months you would have seen there are events which are rattling the entire global economy, and you don't know what's coming next. So there is an increased relevance of corporates to stop and think as to what they should do. In case they invested money in IT security or cyber security systems, and then the hacker gets better of whatever you are doing, is there any way to protect our companies? You can't prevent a hacker from attacking you. You can't prevent the event from happening, but is there a way to protect your balance sheet? Is there a way to financially secure your organization? And what are those systems and who provides those protection systems is what I'll be taking you through. And as you know, there are more instances being reported. As they say, many of these instances do not get reported because corporates would want to keep it under wraps. They don't want their reputation to be spoiled if a cyber attack or an event comes out. There are also connected issues like liability. It's not that my data was lost, it's not that my systems were affected. I had data belonging to others. I'm a bank or a card processing company. I had data belonging to so many others which has been compromised. So there are issues which are beyond my own control, beyond my mitigation systems. So let us see how we can put a protection system to ensure that you're able to continue in your businesses. The latest is some of the banks in India facing these issues, either a credit card or debit card data breach, or at least in 1 or 2 cases where the banks have lost money. And then in the case of one bank, the money loss was brought back with great difficulty. So we are talking of extreme possibilities, and it is beyond the financial arrangement that the organization will have to make sure that they continue in operations. So insurance can be one methodology where you are able to spend a little in the form of a premium and then buy protection which can be substantial. I originally prepared this slide for a general audience, but I am not going to, since you are all experts in cyber risk, I am not going to trouble you by talking about cyber risk, about which I know less and you know more. I am going to concentrate in talking about the cyber insurance, that what is the current market offering in India. This is a recent phenomenon. As you would, all of us would agree that many corporates are yet to realize their cyber exposure as a business, and then beyond that they wouldn't know that there is an insurance possibility which can protect their balance sheet, and beyond that they wouldn't know who are the providers in the market who can provide a good insurance solutions, and finally they wouldn't know how to procure this, what are the terms that are to be negotiated, what is the price to be negotiated. So I can provide during this presentation some aspects of what customers are doing today to put in place an insurance protection mechanism. No insurance can be absolute. You can't protect every risk that you may have, but a substantial risk of a cyber attack and the fallout financially, whether it is a lost data or whether it is a ransom payment or whether it is a liability exposure, how that can be protected is something that I am going to help you to appreciate. When you say cyber liability, there is a lot of nomenclature in the market. Some companies would want to call it cyber security insurance. There are other companies who want to call it cyber liability insurance or merely cyber insurance. There are 2 major areas that are protected under this. Number one is the first party risk. When it comes to a major event, these are the possible outcomes that one might see when a cyber attack happens. The first is the damage to the data or the data system that you may have. It goes into the hands of a hacker, that is, he prevents you from accessing it. Then there are so many resultant expenses, as you can see. There are legal suits that are possible, multiple legal suits. When you talk of major events, especially in the US market, everybody sues everybody else. The government takes action on the person who lost the data. The customers go to lawyers and then file a class action suit. And there are cases where there is a corporate to corporate legal tussle that I gave you my data and you didn't protect it, so I'm going to file a suit against you. So we see that a cyber event follows a major compromise in terms of expense, and then how far this can be captured within the insurance domain. These are some of the major events that have happened. I'm sorry, the type is very small, but these are cases where millions and millions of records were lost, and then beyond recovering the data, beyond making sure the organization is able to sustain, all of these companies had to go through trouble. Unlike the Indian jurisdiction, in Western jurisdiction, breach management is a major headache. There are highly mature legal provisions which mandate that the organization which lost the data have to handle the breach, which means each card member or each account holder has to be notified and informed that their personal information has been breached. And if it is a credit card or a debit card or a bank account number or even a personal information, if there is a misuse of that information for losing money, that somebody clones my credit card and takes away money, the organization which lost the data has to do a credit monitoring, which means they have to promise to the cardholder, next 6 months we will monitor your account, and if there is a suspicious withdrawal of money or suspicious purchase made, we will notify you and also make sure that your money is not lost. That credit monitoring is another obligation which is foisted on a bank or a card processing company. So a cyber event is not just losing data, it is not just losing some information. The fallout of a cyber event is multiple issues that might come. One facing the regulator, second facing the government, and third facing the multiple customers that you may have. And fourth is, at least in the US jurisdiction, you have issues like your shareholders suing you, your banks or financial institutions suing you. So it's more of a legal worry. So the cyber insurance that I'm going to talk about takes care of two things. One is the first party loss, which is money spent for managing your situation. And the second aspect is the third party liability, which is managing the legal exposure that you may face. The Indian market, as you know, we are not a legally active market. That nobody rushes to a court of law to sue you. They may take it up with you, but unlike the US jurisdiction or a European jurisdiction, nobody rushes to a court. So in India, it is still not sensitive. Typical organization that we talk to are not already sensitive about insuring themselves. They may have some sensitivity as far as the cyber risk itself is concerned, but they are yet to come up with the realization that this is insurable, and it is insurable at a very small fraction of a percentage, and then this can save them. Nobody can nobody can predict an event happening, but if it happens that it is insurable is a fact that still Indian organizations are yet to realize. It is the job of organization like ours to keep talking to customers and then explaining to them that you have this risk, and then this risk is insurable, and as you are brokers, we will be able to structure a cover from insurance companies who are able to provide. The Indian market today is made up of 31 insurance companies. Not all of them have all the liability insurance policies, and those who have liability policies, not all of them have a cyber insurance cover. So you can talk about maybe half a dozen insurers who have filed cyber insurance coverages who will be able to offer some cover. And within those 5 or 6 insurance companies, they have preferences. Some of the insurance companies don't want to insure banks. They say BFSI we cannot quote. Some of them don't want to quote for pharma sector. They say it's very sensitive. Research company may have a data worth millions of dollars, we don't want to insure. So our job is to identify the right insurer and connect them to the customer. Now, what can happen after a cyber incident is, first you need to figure out what can be the exposure. Are you the right candidate for buying insurance? So as you can see, do you store or process data? especially the credit or debit card information, because that's most sensitive. Then do you store data, or you just process it? That distinguishes what kind of organization you are. Then do you depend on network? Because many organizations where they depend on a network or support of other organizations, what they face is the interruption. If there is a shutdown of their system, they are unable to operate, then every day they lose money, which in the insurance parlance they call network interruption. That is also insurable, and that is also something that you can recover from the insurance policy. And then do you carry out disputable or controversial or questionable transactions, that it is politically sensitive? What you do is illegal, it is above board, but there is a political sensitivity, you are likely to be hacked. So these are certain parameters which can help you to decide whether you require cyber insurance or not. Because end of the day you may say that my exposure is very less. Many organizations, they may say that we are not exposed to internet at all, we are not connected to the internet, so our business is not exposed to a hacking possibility. Interestingly, recently we met an organization who develop content in music. They hold 1,000 hours of Carnatic music, and they save it in their server. So I was talking to him about cyber possibility, because the entire thing is digital and it is stored in a server. So he was telling me that it is not connected to internet at all, because it is hosted in a server which is never connected to internet. If I want to telecast something today, or I am going to broadcast some music, I am going to copy it on a portable hard drive and then take it away to a broadcasting station. This 1,000 hours of internet music files are not exposed to internet. So today he doesn't feel that he needs cyber insurance. So maybe if you sit down with him and argue that if somebody can copy the entire 1,000 hours of data and then walk away with a laptop or a portable hard drive, that's a risk that he may face, which then borders into what is another insurance product called crime insurance. It is not typically a cyber insurance cover, maybe it will go into a commercial crime insurance. So currently what typical Indian customers are doing is to come to an understanding whether they require cyber insurance or not. As Mr. Navi was mentioning in the morning, that these cyber insurance framework has been given by RBI many years ago. But even today we would like to believe maybe half the banking sector is still uninsured, and those who are insured are not insured adequately, and those who are insured adequately possibly never reviewed what they were doing, because every circumstance can tell you there is a change situation, there is a new type of activity that you are into. You are never into card issuing 5 years back, today you are issuing cards. You are never into internet banking, today you are into internet banking. So the banking sector is a right candidate for cyber insurance, but as I speak to you today, even banks have not, they are not 100% insured for cyber attacks or a loss, financial loss caused by a cyber attack. So we are now currently assisting corporates by talking to them and telling them these issues. Number one, you have a cyber risk. Number two, that risk is insurable. Number three, there are insurance companies, at least half a dozen of them in India, who are willing to insure you. And number four, if you are unable to decide what policy I should buy, which wording should I follow, what kind of extensions I should seek, what insurance premium that I should pay, if these are questions in front of your mind, a good broker like us, we are not the only broker, there are many brokers in the market, a good broker can be engaged who can assist you in identifying the right policy wording, the right insurer, the right extensions, and definitely the right pricing. So we are now currently engaged in telling the customer that these are the issues that may be faced by you, and we will assist you in identifying that we can help you to conclude this. As I mentioned to you, the first party loss is typically the financial loss faced by you. If you lose data, you may incur money to recover data or rebuild the data, is the basic bare minimum first party cost. The second issue is if somebody has taken over your systems, he is preventing access, you might want to call it DDoS or any other terminology, somebody is preventing you access to your own system, you have to incur money to recover it. And the first thing that comes to your mind is ransom. There may be a ransom demand from somebody, maybe cross border, who is insisting that you should remit as many bitcoins or dollars in a particular account, then I will hand over the control back to your servers. Can be a situation where a ransom payment is required, and a ransom payment is part of the insurance coverage as of today. And thirdly, you are not very good in negotiating the ransom cover because you are somebody into banking or software development or software testing or any other activity. How do you reach out to a ransom, a hacker who is demanding ransom? There are specialist agencies who would handle this for you. They could be former police officials, they could be intelligence officials, there may be specialist organizations to whom this ransom negotiation is outsourced. And that doesn't, that's not free, it is, they charge you money. So the cost involved in hiring an agency to negotiate ransom is part of the first party cost. And there may be a possibility there is a reputational damage that you might be reported to media, you may want to talk to media and then request them not to make it a big story. There may be a PR or a branding or a reputation management requirement which you yourself cannot do, it is not in-house. There are agencies, PR agencies who might undertake this work for a fee. That branding or a brand reputation management, it may be individual reputation management or a corporate reputation management which is outsourced. That cost is part of the cyber first party risk. Beyond all this, what is not sensitive in India and what is extremely sensitive in US or Europe or Canadian or Australian jurisdiction is breach handling. Many of the Indian corporates are still considering that this is not a big scare at all. But if you take a jurisdiction like US, where if there is a data breach, then there are regulations in place to demand that you have to notify the customers, your customers, whether it can be a card holder or an account holder, inform them that their private information is lost, a social security number or a driving license number, an address is compromised, and then assure them that you are managing situation by interacting with the government or a regulator and making sure there is no further damage. Also assuring them that we are going to do credit monitoring for you. If there is a loss of credit card information for a committed time period, maybe 6 months or maybe a year, that we are going to monitor your credit card. And if there is any debit or if there is any purchase made, we are going to check with you to ask whether that purchase is genuine, made by you or it is by the hacker. That credit monitoring, all of this has to be committed and performed by the party who has lost the data. So breach is a big headache. Most of the cases you have seen where there was a breach, extraordinary expense has gone for breach handling, which means notification is an expensive affair, credit monitoring is an expensive affair. Even for all this, you may engage outsourced agencies. So typically, target breach is somewhere where they already spent $160 million on breach management. So breach handling is a big issue for corporates, and breach handling or breach management is essential part of first party claim that you might want. It is not sensitive in India because the Indian laws are not as developed, as evolved. Mr. Lavi can help us to understand that better. It is not so sensitive in India that if there is a breach, that suddenly all hell breaks loose and then the roof comes down on your head. Even in the much talked about bank case of last year, where 32 lakh cards were compromised and debit and credit cards went out, 3 Main Street banks were involved. We are not seeing anything in the media or you are not even hearing as to how the breach was handled. I don't know whether customers ever got information committing that their accounts are safe and they are being monitored. I don't think that has come. So we are not there yet. So the typical Indian customer is not as sensitive or is not attaching priority to this breach issue. But what I wanted to tell you is breach management or breach management cost is part of the first party cost. Then another issue is network interruption. As I told you, if you are running a business part of a network and if the hacker is able to successfully shut down the network, deny access, and as a DDoS is distributed, if 50 locations are not operating, you are going to lose money. You may be a lending institution lending gold loans, you may be a truck finance institution giving truck loans, you may be a bank operating in 50 branches or 100 branches. If your operation shuts down, then on a per day basis you lose money, your revenue is affected. To the extent you lose money due to the network interruption, this policy will indemnify the customer as long as you are able to prove that you had interruption, and number 2, you are able to establish what is the loss that you are facing. So network interruption is another cover which is under the first party cost. So in short, these are the expenses or financial costs that you incur if a hacking or if a cyber attack would happen. But this is the smaller portion. Though it looks very fancy and then the list is quite impressive, The bigger worry is third party risk, which is the liability risk, that if I lose data, it can be data which is internal, nobody is going to find fault with me if I lose the data, or it can be data belonging to others. Again, starting with banks or credit card companies, the personal identifiable information, which is my credit card number, debit card number, Aadhaar card number and ration card number, my driving license number, my address, my date of birth, all of this is sensitive. If this is lost and then lost in lakhs or millions, then there is a possibility that there may be a class action suit against me. The second issue is, which I tell the healthcare industry, if there is a health information of a VIP patient who comes to you for his checkup, if that comes to the news, then he may sue you because this information was to be kept confidential in your case and then you lost it. So I am going to sue you for, if he is going to be acting in a 200 crore budget film, then there can be a scary outcome. So sensitive information lying in your IT system which is compromised can be a big time headache. Then you take research companies, pharma companies, or even engineering research companies. There are a lot of jobs outsourced to India where good part of the research work is kept in digital form. If that is hacked and taken away, then my principals who have spent millions of dollars in that research might want to sue me. So I wanted to appreciate that the liability risk is much bigger and much closer to you than the operational financial cost. Then there are other issues like IPR infringement. I may keep some information and I've been given that information so that I use it only for a specific purpose, and that is copied or breached. Even an employee might copy it and sell it outside, and then the person who generated or produced it, who has given it to me for a specific purpose, can sue me saying my IPR is lost. So confidentiality of the information, or its nature of being intellectual property, or it being extraordinarily important personal information, can be good reason for a small IT company or a small software company or a small consulting company to face legal suit. So the larger utility of a cyber risk insurance, as we would see, is the third party liability. So as you can see, there can be reputational issues, there can be confidentiality issues, and there can be contractual issues, and there can be statutory issues that you may face, which is by way of liability. So these two important components, which is first party cost, where it is money to be spent upfront by you, or third party cost, which is the liability that might fall on your organization, which you cannot withstand. You may be somebody with a 1 crore capital or a 2 crore capital or a 10 crore capital. You can't face extraordinary litigation. Very importantly, you may, at the end of the day, you may prove that it is not my mistake, I am not supposed to pay the award, there may not be an award against me. So I may walk out after 2 years or 3 years, the court may not award anything against me, but I might have spent maybe 50 lakhs or 25 lakhs on legal fees. The defense cost, the cost of handling a legal suit on me itself can be quite heavy. So engaging a very good lawyer who may be a specialist in this subject can cost me money. So am I going to face that legal defense cost myself, or can I easily insure it, is an important question, because very frequently customers tell us our contracts are clean, there is no obligation on me, and even if that obligation is there, it is only limited to my own fee. My fee in this contract is only 10 lakh rupees, so I don't see a big issue. So we tell them that it is not just limited to this obligation of 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs. You may have to engage expensive lawyers. You can't hire every other lawyer. He must be a lawyer who is specialized in handling litigation of this nature. So the defense cost being part of the cyber liability insurance or a cyber security insurance is a great justification for looking at this coverage very seriously. That end of the day, even if I become free from a legal award, I may have to pay the defense cost, which can be included. Then again, investigation cost. If I am a bank, there can be an investigation by RBI as to whether I kept the information confidential. Did I have the required necessary standards of cyber security protection? Were I compliant with the cyber security standard that I am supposed to keep, or did I comply with the RBI norms on cyber security? There may be an investigation, and I am not able to handle the investigation myself. Again, I might engage a consultant or a lawyer to handle that, and that is not going to come free. So as of today, we see a overwhelming utility of cyber insurance beyond just the first party cost you might see, or beyond the legal liability itself as an award. The frills, as you may want to say, as you may want to call it, or the additional benefits or the value adds that might come with the coverage, which is very attractive. As I am mentioning to you, the list of insurers for cyber security is very short. It's just about 5-6 companies, and those companies are very keen to offer this. They want to increase their base. So now is the right time for corporates to take a serious look at this risk and then insure themselves against it. As I was mentioning, forensic investigations, typically what Internettechies or any of their comparable institutions would do is to investigate. The shareholders or the regulators might want you to investigate as to how the compromise took place. So you may want to engage forensic investigators, and there may be an expense to it. Insurance companies today come forward to bear the cost, which is one part of the value addition. The other value addition, at least 1 or 2 insurers are willing to engage the empaneled agencies. I may be a small company, I do not know who is doing this. If I meet the Internettechies or any similar organization, I have solved it myself. But I may not know that which is the best organization to approach. Some of the insurers have already empaneled organization. They have lawyers, specialists in cyber security matters. They have forensic investigators to whom they regularly engage, and those agencies are part of what they want to offer. And mind you, when it comes to the liability coverage of cyber security, right from the time there was a breach, the customer is supposed to involve the insurance company. So the moment you notify them, automatically the insurance company is going to introduce those agencies, and then there can be a interaction between the customer who lost the information, the investigating agency, and the insurance company. So these value additions are there along with the insurance itself. Not that all the insurers provide this, some of the insurers are extending these value additions. And as you would know, internationally, there is no single insurance contract without exclusion. Even if you look at your motorcycle insurance or your car insurance, there are exclusions. Likewise, in the cyber insurance also, there may be exclusions under which if those exclusions kick in, the claim would not come. But we wouldn't want to limit our focus only on the exclusion. We would want the customers to look at the extraordinary advantage of buying this cover and then going ahead with insuring themselves. There are some argument that my property insurance can have cyber cover, or my directors and officers insurance can maybe include cyber cover, or my professional indemnity insurance. So there are some customers who say, we have other insurance policies. Can't I insure cyber along with that? The answer is a yes and a no. When it comes to property insurance, maybe covering this building, there is no possibility of including cyber cover here. But if I buy a professional indemnity insurance, or we buy a crime insurance, it is still possible for us to buy a small sublimit. I buy crime insurance for 10 crores, then the insurance company will say, I'll give you another 1 crore or 50 lakhs worth of cyber insurance, which means if there is a cyber or a data related claim, the professional indemnity insurance or a crime insurance would pay. But the point is, it is not a full blown cyber insurance cover. Whatever I explained to you as first party cost or a third party liability coverage may not come into that add-on cover. If cyber is an add-on cover, it won't serve your purpose. So my other policies that I might have may not fulfill the requirement of getting everything that a cyber insurance could provide. So as I mentioned, the Indian market is still growing. We have 4 or 5 or 6 insurance companies very happy and willing, including HDFC Ergo, who are one of the sponsors today. They have filed the product. They have filed their cyber insurance policy with the regulator, and they are willing to discuss as many proposals as they want. But as I mentioned to you, you should take notice, all these 5 or 6 insurers do not offer cyber to every other risk. They have their own preferences. Somebody wants to avoid BFSI completely. We don't want to touch any banking or financial companies. And then there are others who don't want to touch any government exposed businesses. You have government contract, we don't want to deal with you. Or there are some insurance companies who want to avoid pharma sector completely, contract research, engineering research, and then there can be a multi-million-dollar suit we want to keep away. So there are sectoral preferences that these insurers might have, but it is the job of a good broker. There are 400 brokers in India. It's the job of a good broker to identify the right insurer, negotiate the right wordings, and and organize the right structure in the policy and connect the right client. It is the job of a broker to do this. So it is possible for us to get this cover. And these companies, if it is a bigger cover, there are customers in India who seek a 100 crore limit, cyber risk, 100 crores required. So none of these 6 companies are able to write it because it's a very sophisticated new type of risk. They wouldn't be able to take it on themselves. So typically these kind of risks are reinsured. There is a reinsurance market in London or Dubai or Singapore, from where insurers would extend their capacity for the same proposal. So it is possible for these insurers to get support from the overseas market. So the good news is this insurance is available in India, and the good news is these insurers are very happy to discuss and then offer this cover. If it is a cover of, let us say, $20 million or $30 million, it is possible to place it within the Indian market, and we will be within a week or 2 weeks we can organize this cover. If it is a larger capacity requirement, then we need to tap the overseas market. As I was mentioning, international markets are more sophisticated because they have a better understanding of the regulatory requirements. All roads in insurance lead to London. So the London underwriters have evolved better wordings than what we see in India. If there is a right candidate or a right insured who seeks a better wording, we always access the overseas market and then get value additions. And there are some underwriters in London who provide a global coordination. If I am an Indian MNC, I have operations in 10 locations across different continents. To react to a cyber attack or a breach internationally is a possibility. If I seek the right limits, then we are able to access the right insurer in the London market. If there is a breach and then my Honolulu office was attacked, or my Hawaii or my Australia office was attacked, they will be able to manage, because each office is under a different country, different laws and different jurisdictions. So it's a challenging job for the customer to manage the breach all over. So it is today possible for a customer or an Indian multinational to make sure that he has a cyber insurance which has a global jurisdiction, a global territorial scope, and again to make sure that everywhere in the world there is a possibility to respond to the breach. So the underwriting considerations are today the industry which the customer belongs is the first consideration. That are you a manufacturing company, are you into software, are you into pharma research, what is the industry you represent is one of the underwriting considerations. Second is what is the quality of cyber risk protection that you have. Are there international standards with which you are compliant, and are there certifications which is particular to your industry, are you compliant with them? Are you regulated or not? Are you just a finance company or you are under RBI? Then you have a regulatory exposure. Then are there in-house capability or expertise to manage the cyber risk protection, or are you outsourcing it? Or is your business on the cloud or it is not on the cloud? There are as many considerations an insurance company would apply to decide, number one, whether to accept you as a customer. Number two, to offer the limits that you want. You want $10 million, can I give you $10 million for what you are? Then number three, to give the add-on covers or extensions that a broker like me would demand. Number four, what is the insurance premium that I should charge? Can I charge that premium, or can I lower it, or can I increase it? So these are the underwriting considerations an insurance company would apply to decide to accept you as a risk, and also to decide what parameters would operate. I am not going to bore you with these actual cases, you might have seen as many. Many of these IT criminal acts are covered under the cyber risk. There is another policy called commercial crime, which has a slight shadow effect or overlap with the cyber insurance, but that is not a subject matter of today's discussion. So cyber insurance can predominantly take care of the extraordinary financial impact of a hacking or a cyber attack. And then if you realize that you are a candidate for that cover and you can afford, your budget would permit that you can buy this policy, then the Indian market is ready for offering you this cover. And there are as many new things emerging. We have recently set up what is called an emerging risk practice to capture these issues, professional risk and also cyber risk. There are risks which even we are not very familiar with. As I was mentioning to Ram today, that if there is a cyber attack on a manufacturing installation, a petroleum or a petrochemical processing company, their manufacturing is impacted by a cyber attack, and then they shut down for 15 days, there can be a 100 crore loss. Today, the insurance policies world over are not geared up to manage that, because it's very difficult to model this risk, it is very difficult to price this risk, but it is emerging. And experts among you would talk about AI or machine learning or IoT and what kind of impact it will have on the cyber risk itself. Those aspects are still beyond insurability. There may be some relief available, but entirely the insurance market is still not geared up, but that is for tomorrow, not for today. So those who are ready for the next stage of attack is somebody who can look at solutions like cyber, and then they are ready. Any questions?
See, I am from MFI industry, NBFC MFI. So I say like members' database will be maintained by the third-party software. So if anything happened to the third-party software, will this insurance cover our company?
No, you are outsourcing that, sir?
Yeah, outsourcing.
Yeah, so then every discussion on cyber will bring us to these two major areas. What is going to be your first party cost? If your data is housed in the server of outsourced agency, if there is a compromise, will you be incurring expense? Because between you and the outsourced agency, it's a contractual relationship.
Correct.
What you can do best is to send a notice to them and then take them on legally, but it is not going to give you relief.
Correct.
If there is an expense you are going to incur to recover the data or rebuild data from whatever available resources, or if it is already in the hands of a hacker to pay ransom and get it back, that cost is anyway payable to you. So the answer to your question is yes. If there is an expense involved in recovering or retrieving or getting back the data which you will incur, irrespective of whether it is in your server or somebody else's server, you will be able to get it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, this is Anand. I have a question. See, in 2008, the international financial market collapsed. This is not exactly related to cyber attack, but because of the massive collapse in the financial institutions, the insurance companies that were supporting them were not able to help them to sustain. Because of that, everything collapsed. So similarly, if there's a huge cyber attack, which could happen, will the insurance company be able to support it?
I'll give an analogy, sir. The overwhelming impact of a global cyber attack is something that what you're referring, maybe WannaCry or PetTrap or whatever it is. It's a deluge. It affects everybody. Compare that to Chennai floods. Chennai floods came in, water went everywhere, and everybody was affected, big and small. Those who were insured were able to recover. Those who were uninsured were not. So if a global cyber attack would happen, if you had an insurance policy in place and it is properly structured to take care of both these issues, and then definitely you will get indemnity.
My doubt is based on whether they will have the financial might to support.
Face that kind of, insurance otherwise is a business of what they call law of large numbers. You have large number of customers and their risks are spread globally. So if you might see that there are 31 insurance companies in India, they don't keep their risk on their balance sheet. There is an extraordinary balance sheet protection mechanism called reinsurance. So every rupee of insurance that you pay, whether it's for your scooter or car, part of that is reinsured. So if there is an extraordinary global event like that, reinsurance will kick in. Typically for new products like cyber insurance or a product liability insurance, it is highly reinsured. So the insurance company in India will keep a wafer thin low portion and then the rest is reinsured.
Okay, just one more question.
Yeah.
Also in the recent times we heard about the cyber attack in UK hospitals.
Yeah.
All the hospitals, came to a standstill. They were not able to progress. I mean, they were not able to function.
Yeah.
So in such a case, if the medical data is destroyed because of cyber attack, this kind of insurance covers that also?
Correct. So there the possibility is, what happens if your medical data is gone?
Yeah.
As the patient, you have to get re-examined or you have to do the test again. That is a smaller worry because it will cost another few pounds or maybe a few £100. The bigger worry is the privacy. Privacy is not as sensitive in India as it is in the other jurisdictions. So privacy of medical information or a private medical information is a bigger worry. I heard from a broker in Europe that one fine day, when it's a small town on the beach side, so they were going for a walk on the beach, the test reports of the local hospital was lying all over the beach. So a disgruntled employee pulled out all the papers and then threw it on the beach side. The cyber policies in some of the, with some of the insurers in UK would cover even non-digital information. It is not just binary information that might go. It may be physical record. There are cases where engineering manuals or maintenance manual which are IPR protected, the manual might get lost. And you might have signed a contract that we will keep it safe and confidential. So not the Indian wording, but there are wordings available, insurance wording available where even non-digital information, sensitive information, if you lose it, the insurance policy will pay. So thank you for your attention. Glad to be addressing you. If you have any questions, you can always reach out. Yes, sir. Please.
Insurance, they have to do a premium. My data is given to B for some work. Who has to, I am also, in case of anything happens, I am also loser. The person who has taken my information for some work. So, who has to take insurance? Who has to pay the premium?
Right, sir. So you are giving your data to somebody else to process.
Yes, yes.
Right, and then there is a contract between you and him.
Right.
The likely scenario, in case the data from them is lost, the hacking happened and then they lost data. Number one is the contractual liability that they owe to you, that you may want to send a notice and then maybe take them on legally. That's something between you and them. But it is possible for you to cover the vendors and subcontractors also in your policy. You can tell them, you can even put in the contract with your vendor that they have to buy a cyber insurance cover. It's very intelligent to do that. But if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to burden that obligation on them, it is possible for you to say that data either in my server or my contractor server need to be protected. And any expense incurred either from my side or from their side must be indemnified. Right? So it is possible to contract out that obligation by specifying that you buy a cyber insurance cover, including third party liability, so that when you sue them for $1 million, their insurer can pay you. It's normal for organizations to do that. One last question.
Really, it's a good session, and I am from a assurance industry. I represent certification and advisory services.
Yeah.
Especially when you talk about the insurance, especially the insurance agencies, do they specify the organizations in terms of strengthening the implementations of governance or cyber certifications, so that the liability probably with confidence insurance companies can also approach?
Correct, sir. It is very common in certain mature insurance markets, developed insurance markets, where if you are a customer with the certifications, you get a cheaper premium. If there is an issue with certifications or you are still applying and then it is still being evaluated, you don't have the certification already in place, your premium could be high. The Indian market today is not as sophisticated, we are not as developed. So today we are in a phase where we want to increase the base. So the insurers in India may not have a big time weightage on the certification. They may want to know, are you a good risk or not? Are you a good client? For that purpose, their proposal form will ask PCI DSS compliance, and then do you have regulatory compliance? All questions will be there. Do you have BCP in place? Then can you share that information with? All these questions will be there, and you are obligated to answer them. In insurance, it's about good faith. But your premium may not be extraordinarily different if you are compliant and not so compliant. Completely non-compliant and reckless customer is bad for everybody. But if it is a borderline issue, my certifications are still not in place, or I don't have everything that I need. In Indian market, the differentiation is not too great. We would prefer that to be, we want insurance companies to distinguish good risk and bad risk. We want them to do that. But today they may not put that kind of weightage. But if you are a company operating in London or New York or somewhere in Europe, this weightage is very, very high. That a compliant company will get a cheaper premium, not so compliant organization will get a higher premium.
Thank you, sir.